Some of these songs you know by heart, but you don't know the real story behind them, the fights, the pressure, the moments nobody talks about. These weren't just hits, they were battles, and some of the biggest songs ever made almost never existed at all. What if everything you thought you knew about pop music was only half the truth? This is the list you grew up with, but this time, we go deeper. Number 10, OutKast, 2018, Hey Yay, 2019, 2003, number 10.
Hey, here we go!
And we are starting with something that will probably surprise you, because this song, this one right here, is one of the most sneaky, brilliant things pop music has ever done. Close your eyes for a second. Think about the last time you heard this song at a party, or at a wedding, or on the radio, and you just started moving. You didn't even think about it. Your body just went. That's the power of this record.
Say yeah! Say yeah!
It gets inside you before your brain even has a chance to ask questions. Now, here's what's wild. Andre 3000, the genius behind this track, wrote a song about love falling apart, about staying in a relationship that isn't working, about pretending to be happy when you're not. He hid all of that heartbreak inside the most joyful, bouncy, irresistible pop record of the early 2000s. And nobody noticed. Everyone was too busy dancing. Facts and context. The song came out in 2003 on Layface Records, produced by Andre 3000 himself, as part of OutKast's double album Speaker Box / The Love Below. That was a brave move. 2 separate albums sold as one. The label wasn't sure about it, but that album sold over 10 million copies in the United States alone.
You got my candy.
Hey Ya reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and won a Grammy for Best Urban / Alternative Performance. Andre played almost all the instruments on the track himself. A mix of 1960s pop, funk, and new wave that felt completely new. Fun fact, when Hey Ye was first tested on radio audiences, some stations reported it wasn't connecting well. Programmers were confused. It was too unusual. But the public heard it and fell in love instantly. The people knew something the industry didn't. Why it deserves more. This song sits in a strange gap between classic and modern, old enough to feel nostalgic, recent enough to be dismissed as just a hit, but it's a masterpiece wearing a party outfit. A song about love not working that people dance to at weddings. Pop music is full of beautiful lies, but this one is the most glorious. Stay with me, because number 9 is a song that didn't just top the charts. It changed what a woman's voice could mean in pop music. Number 9, Beyoncé featuring Jay-Z, 2018, Crazy in Love, 2019, 2003. Number 9.
So deep in your eyes, I touch on you more and more every time. When you leave, I'm begging you not to.
The year is 2003. Destiny's Child is still a name everyone knows, and then out of nowhere, this arrives. You know that horn. You know it before the first word is even sung. That brass hit comes in like a door being kicked open, and what walks through that door is one of the most confident, electric pop entrances of all time. This wasn't a debut. Beyoncé had been famous for years, but this was the moment she became Beyoncé. Capital B, no last name needed.
When I talk to my friends so quietly, who we think he is? Look at what you did to me. Tennis shoes on me.
Facts and Context, produced by Jay-Z and Rich Harrison, released on Columbia Records. The horn sample was lifted from the Chai Lights 1970 R&B track Are You My Woman. It reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and won the Grammy for Best R&B Song.
Young Hov, y'all know when the flow is loco. Young B and the ROC.
Rolling Stone placed it at number 16 on their 2021 Greatest Songs list, calling it a record that emphatically announced her arrival as the era's dominant pop power. Fun fact, Beyoncé has said the recording came together very quickly. The energy you hear in that vocal wasn't manufactured over weeks of studio takes. That was real. In the moment, she felt it, and it came out that way.
Fall back young, ever since I made the change over to platinum, the game's been a rap one.
Why it still matters. What gets forgotten is how much of a risk this was. She was stepping out of a group, making a statement, doing it on her own terms. That kind of control, especially for a young black woman in 2003, was rare. This song was the proof she had earned it. Keep watching, because number 8 is a song that almost didn't make it to you at all. Number 8, Nirvana, 2018, Smells Like Teen Spirit, 2019, 1991, number 8. And I need you to understand something before we talk about this one. This is a pop song. I know what you're thinking, but stick with me. Pop music is not a genre, it's a force. It's whatever penetrates culture so deeply that it becomes part of how a generation understands itself. And nothing did that in the early 1990s like this track. Facts and context, Kurt Cobain, Chris Novoselic, and Dave Grohl, produced by Butch Vig, recorded at Sound City Studios in Van Nuys, California, released on DGC Records. The entire Nevermind album cost around $650,000 to make. It sold over 30 million copies worldwide. It knocked Michael Jackson's Dangerous off the top of the Billboard 200. Yeah, Kurt Cobain said he was trying to write the ultimate Pixies song. He accidentally wrote the anthem of a generation instead. Fun fact, the 1992 MTV Video Music Award performance was so explosive and deliberately chaotic that it became one of the most talked about live moments in pop television history.
Hard to find the will, whatever, never mind.
The band trashed their equipment on stage. In a world of choreographed performances, that attitude was like a grenade going off. Why it's here. Rolling Stone and MTV placed it at number 3 on their greatest pop songs list. Some people resist calling it pop, but that resistance is the point. This song broke every wall pop had built around itself. It proved that pop could be honest, uncomfortable, angry, and still irresistible. Keep going. Number 7 is a song born from a dream, and it became the most covered piece of music in human history. Number 7, The Beatles, 2018, Yesterday, 2019, 1965. Number 7.
Yesterday, suddenly.
And here's where we step back in time. Way back, imagine waking up one morning with a melody already in your head, fully formed, like it arrived overnight from somewhere else. You play it and it's perfect, and you spend weeks asking every musician you know, did I steal this from somewhere? Is this already a song? Because it's so good, it must already exist.
I don't know, she wouldn't say.
Facts and context. That's what happened to Paul McCartney in 1965. He called the melody Scrambled Eggs at first. Then the real words came, and what followed was, according to Guinness World Records, the most covered song in the history of recorded music. Over 2,200 versions, recorded at EMI Studios on Abbey Road, produced by George Martin. It was entirely Paul's song, a string quartet, and Martin's arrangement and Paul's voice. No drums, no Lennon, no Harrison, just that.
Love was such an easy game to play.
Fun fact, John Lennon reportedly felt the track was too soft for the band's image at the time. They were still positioning themselves as a rock and roll group, but Yesterday became the most beloved song in their entire catalog. Sometimes the artist is the last to see what they've got. why it deserves renewed attention. This song has been heard so many times it becomes wallpaper. You stop really listening. Put it on tonight with headphones. Sit still. Let Paul's voice take you somewhere quiet. It will remind you why you fell in love with music in the first place. Number 6 is coming, and it was born from a guitar riff recorded in a dark hotel room, half asleep on a cassette player that nearly didn't get pressed play. Number 6, The Rolling Stones, 2018, I Can't Get No Satisfaction. 2019, 1965. Number 6, picture this. It's the middle of the night, a hotel room in Clearwater, Florida. Keith Richards wakes up with a riff in his head. He records it on the cassette player he keeps by the bed. He says into the tape, I can't get no satisfaction, and then he falls back asleep. 45 minutes of snoring follow. He had no memory of doing it at all.
No. Hey.
Facts and context. That riff became one of the most recognized guitar lines in the history of music. Recorded at Chess Studios in Chicago in 1965, released on London Records. The lyrics are about a young man frustrated by advertising, television, everything being sold to him that satisfies nothing real. It reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 4 weeks. Some radio programmers found it subversive. The public didn't care. They loved it because it was honest in a way pop radio rarely allowed. Fun fact, Keith Richards originally wanted to replace the guitar riff with a horn section. He thought the guitar was just a demo placeholder. It was Mick Jagger and producer Andrew Loog Oldham who pushed to keep it. They heard what Keith couldn't hear in his own creation. Sometimes you need someone else to protect your best idea from yourself. The bigger picture, to put that guitar sound, those lyrics, that attitude onto mainstream radio in 1965 was an act of real artistic courage. The gatekeepers pushed back. The public pulled forward. Remember that the next time you hear it, and really hear it, this time. Number 5 will make your jaw drop. Not just for the music, but for who stood up for it when everyone in the industry said it was too much. Number 5 are the Beach Boys. 2018, God only knows. 2019, 1966.
Make you so sure about it. God only knows what.
And this one is personal for me because this song makes me feel things I can't fully explain, and I've been listening to music my whole life. It opens with a French horn. In a pop song, in 1966, before a single word, you're already somewhere wide open and golden and slightly heartbreaking. Then the vocal comes in, gentle, asking, what would life be without you? That's the whole song, that question. Asked with complete sincerity, no bravado, just truth. Facts and context. Brian Wilson wrote and produced this, recorded at Western Recorders in Hollywood for the Pet Sounds album, released on Capitol Records. The production layers instruments you'd never expect in pops: a theremin, a bicycle bell, a Coca-Cola can being tapped.
God only knows what I'd be without. God only knows what I'd.
Paul McCartney has called it the greatest song ever written. Think about that. The man who wrote Yesterday. He listened to this and said, and that's the one. Rolling Stone placed it at number 11 on their 2021 Greatest Songs list. Fun fact, Capitol Records was worried about using the word God in the title. They feared radio stations would refuse to play it. Brian Wilson had to fight for it. He won.
God only knows what I'd be without.
The song reached number 2 in the UK and became one of the most critically beloved recordings in pop history. The label was wrong, the artist was right. It happens more than the industry wants to admit. Why quiet perfection gets overlooked. This song exists outside trends, outside drama, outside the cultural battles that make other songs easy to write about. It just sits there and shines. And sometimes quiet perfection gets ignored in a world that rewards noise. Don't ignore this one, please. Number 4, this is where I promised you we'd go deeper. I kept that promise. Stay right there. The real story behind one of the most fought-over songs in pop history starts now. Number 4, Queen 2018, Bohemian Rhapsody 2019, 1975.
Cause I'm easy come, easy go, little high.
And I told you we were going to go there. Here we are. Earlier I said there were songs on this list with hidden stories. Stories the mainstream doesn't always tell fully. Bohemian Rhapsody is the greatest example. Not because of scandal or crime, but because of how much the music industry tried to stop this song from existing and what it tells us about who gets to decide what's too much for the public. The industry battle.
Life had just begun, but now
The year is 1975. Freddie Mercury walks into a meeting with EMI Records executives and plays them a 6-minute song. 6 minutes, no traditional chorus, an opera section in the middle, a hard rock outro, a tone that shifts so dramatically it barely seems like one song at all. The response? Confusion, concern, resistance. In interviews over the years, band members and people close to the sessions have described serious pressure from the label to cut the song down. Radio programmers said a 6-minute single would never work. The conventional wisdom of 1975 was absolute. Pop singles needed to be under 3.5 minutes. Anything longer was self-indulgence. There are different versions of how the next part of the story went.
Will you let me go?
Some accounts say DJ Kenny Everett received an early copy and began playing it on his BBC radio show after listeners called in demanding to hear it again. Other accounts credit the band's own determination. What is not disputed is this: the song was released at full length. The industry was wrong. It stayed at number 1 in the UK for 9 weeks, with no chorus, with an opera section in 1975. Let that sit with you. The question of meaning. Freddie Mercury never fully explained what Bohemian Rhapsody was about. Some point to his complex relationship with his identity at a time when being openly gay was still dangerous in many parts of the world. In interviews, it's been said he found the song deeply personal and didn't want to reduce it to a single explanation. He wanted people to feel it, not decode it. That choice turned the song into a mirror.
just gotta get right out of here.
Everyone who hears it finds something of themselves in it. That's why it works for teenagers in the 1970s, for people in the 1990s, and for a whole new generation who discovered it through a 2018 film. Rolling Stone placed it at number 17 on their greatest songs list. It is still the most streamed song from the 20th century on Spotify. That is why this song isn't just music, it's history. It's a document of what happens when an artist refuses to be smaller than their vision, and it's a reminder that the gatekeepers are almost always wrong about the things that matter most. We are in the top 3. Number 3 changed what anger could sound like in pop music, and it did it while making you want to dance. We're halfway through. Which song has hit you hardest so far? Comment below right now. Number 3, Aretha Franklin, 2018. Respect 2019, 1967. The Queen, and that title isn't given lightly in this documentary. It's earned. You've heard this song, of course you have. But have you ever really listened? Have you thought about what it meant for a black woman in 1967, in the middle of the civil rights movement, to stand at a microphone and demand, with that voice, to be seen, to be respected, not just by a lover, by the world? Facts and context. Otis Redding wrote this in 1965. He recorded it as a man asking his woman to respect him when he came home. It was a decent hit, nothing more. Then Aretha Franklin walked into Atlantic Records studio in New York City with producer Jerry Wexler, and she rewrote it. She took ownership completely. She added the spell out. She added the sock it to me section. She changed the perspective, the meaning, and the entire emotional direction of the song. Redding himself reportedly said she had made it her own completely, and he said it with admiration. Rolling Stone's 2021 poll of more than 250 artists, musicians, and producers put this at #1, not just #1 pop song, #1 song of everything, every genre, every era. Fun fact, the backup singers on this record were Aretha's sisters, Carolyn and Irma Franklin. That family harmony you hear wasn't a session musician arrangement, that was blood. That was a family making history together in a New York recording studio. The legacy, this song became the soundtrack of two movements simultaneously. The women's rights movement and the civil rights movement. It played at marches. It played on picket lines. It played in homes where people were fighting for their dignity. It was more than a pop song. The moment it was released, it was a weapon. A joyful, magnificent musical weapon. Every generation needs to be introduced to it properly. Not as a song on a playlist, but as a moment in history that changed what pop music could stand for. #2 is coming, and it's the bass line that started a million arguments about who the greatest pop artist of all time really was. #2, Michael Jackson, 2018, Billie Jean, 2019, 1983. And if you want to debate this one being #2 instead of #1, I hear you. But keep watching. Close your eyes. You've heard this song 1,000 times, but close your eyes anyway. And just listen to those first 4 seconds. That kick drum, that hi-hat, that bass line walking in, like it owns everything. Before a single word, those 4 seconds are 4 of the most recognizable seconds in the history of popular music. Facts and context recorded at Westlake Recording Studios in Los Angeles. Produced by Quincy Jones for the album Thriller on Epic Records, the best-selling album in music history with somewhere between 66 and 100 million copies sold worldwide, written entirely by Michael Jackson. And the lyrics are about a woman who falsely claims he is the father of her child. But the way Michael performed it, the paranoia in the vocal, the vulnerability underneath the cool surface made it feel like a confession. Like fear, and that tension between the irresistible groove and the genuine unease underneath it is what makes it a masterpiece. Fun fact, Quincy Jones initially wanted to cut Billie Jean from the album. He felt the intro was too long. Michael stood firm. He refused to shorten it. He said the intro was essential. He was right. The intro is everything. The greatest artists in history always know where their power lives. Cultural moment. The Motown 25 television special in 1983 introduced the world to the moonwalk. Michael performed it live for the first time. People who were there said the audience reaction was like nothing they had ever seen at a television taping. The room went still and then it erupted. That one performance may be the single most iconic moment in pop television history. She's just a girl. This is the benchmark, the standard against which every other pop production has been judged for 40 years. One more. We are at number 1. You might think you know what's coming, but you need to hear the full story, because even the greatest song ever written almost didn't exist.
Hey, Pop Lore family. Did you know only 1% of viewers are subscribed? If you love deep dives into pop legends, forgotten gems, and the stories behind the songs that shaped generations, hit that subscribe button right now. And don't forget to turn on LL notifications so you'll be the first to know when we premiere our next video. It's free, it helps Pop Lore grow, and it makes sure you never miss a single countdown or music story. Let's build this community together.
Number 1, Chubby Checker. The Twist. I know, you might be raising an eyebrow right now. The Twist? You are thinking, that old thing? And I need you to stop, take a breath, and really listen to me, because The Twist is the number 1 song in the entire 60-year history of the Billboard Hot 100. Not just a great song, not just a classic, the greatest charting single in the history of American pop music by the numbers, and most people under the age of 50 have absolutely no idea why. The Twist was originally written and recorded by Hank Ballard in 1959, but it was Chubby Checker's version, produced by Cal Mann and Dave Appel, and released on Parkway Records in 1960 that changed everything. The song is on the surface about a dance. A simple, easy-to-do dance where you twist your hips like you are putting out a cigarette with your foot. No complicated footwork, no partner required. Anyone could do it, and that was the revolution. In 1960, it went to number 1 on the Hot 100. Then something happened that has never happened before or since in the history of that chart. It went back to number 1 again in 1962, a completely separate chart run. 2 years later, reaching the very top again because adults, parents, grown-ups who had first dismissed the dance as a kid's fad caught on and made it their own. According to Billboard's all-time ranking, The Twist is the greatest Hot 100 hit in the chart's history. That record still stands today. Fun fact, Chubby Checker, born Ernest Evans, got his stage name as a direct play on Fats Domino's name. Once suggested by the wife of his label's owner, Fats became Chubby. Domino became Checker, a simple joke of a name, and it became one of the most recognizable names in the history of pop music. What makes this story heartbreaking, and I mean truly heartbreaking, is what happened to Chubby Checker in the years and decades that followed.
Come on, let's twist again.
He fought for years over royalties and recognition. He watched his song be used in films, commercials, and events without always seeing the financial benefit he deserved. He has spoken publicly and passionately about the way black artists of that era were treated by the music industry, paid poorly, signed to unfair contracts, and then set aside when the commercial moment had passed. He had a number 1 record that broke a chart record that no one has ever matched, and yet by the end of the 1960s, he was already being treated like a footnote.
Time is here.
The Twist changed how America danced. It changed who was allowed to be in the same room dancing together. At a moment when the civil rights movement was fighting for the basic dignity of black Americans, a black artist created a dance craze so irresistible that white teenagers, their parents, even people in the highest levels of society were all doing the same dance together in the same spaces. That is cultural power. That is what pop music can do when it gets it right. It dissolves barriers. It makes strangers move together. It makes the world just for a moment feel like one room.
Let's twist again, like we did last year. Come on.
The Twist is not just the greatest charting pop song in history. It is proof that pop music at its best is a force for connection. It reaches across every line we draw, age, race, class, your generation, and says, come on, just move, just feel this. Just be here together right now. That is what the greatest pop music has always done. And that is why these 10 songs matter.